Better. So, hi. We're starting things up here with a new idea I had just today because I saw that YouTube had these really cool streaming apps, and I was like, hey, we could do like a discussion about things. And then, I wanted to do a Set 5, like, state of the meta thing, like a video. And I don't know, it just felt very one-sided. So I said, hey, let's do like a live thing where people can participate and, be a part of the discussion. So here we are talking about Set 5, only, a couple weeks in now? Well, a week, technically, as far as tournaments, because this last weekend was the first weekend that Set 5 was technically legal, although, y'all been playing with it since it came out, like the midnight release when you got it on Thursday of last week. So, I'm not going to lie about that. So I wanted to talk about kind of my thoughts on Set 5 post-release and what has changed in the meta a lot. I've got a few opinions, but I also want to know yours. So, of course, if you're in chat, you can, type it. I think it's right over there. Is it mirrored? No, here would be, I think it's there, if I'm mirroring correctly. I don't know. Tell me if I'm pointing in the right direction. Am I pointing in the right direction? I think so. I think you're over there in the chat. So you can post, your thoughts and opinions on the chat. And I got a thumbs up. Sweet. Excellent. I love thumbs up. 2 thumbs up. So let me talk about what I thought about Set 5, and as I go along, just interrupt and just start saying stuff, and I will gladly address your thoughts and opinions. So far, let me just say, Set 5, I'm gonna out and say it, favorite set so far. Favorite set so far. So Set 4 was really big because the whole meta changed, and we saw a big rise, like Orange Android 20, which was big at Worlds, and people, I don't think they really saw how it was going to develop and change. And, of course, Android 17 came out, and everybody was like, oh, no, man. Oh, Black Swords Trunks. Yeah! Oh, there's John. There's my man. There's the man of black hoishness. Like, he makes just, like, black skank decks. Like, you play the deck, and you're like, this is going to be a skanky deck. Yeah, skanky deck. But, everybody talked about Android 17 in the van, and that was going to be the hotness. But I look now, where we're at now, even before Set 5, and Android 17 I don't think made as big of a splash as people thought. So with the few options we had opened up, I still think we saw, the old school decks. Yeah, Set 5 has been quite the shakeup. I agree, Leland. I totally agree. Because, when we had all these Set 4 decks, I still think the Set 1 through 3 decks, the Black Krillins, the Namekian Piccolos, like the top tier decks were still, I would say, meta choices. But after Set 5, like the options, I have, the other thing I've noticed too is there's not as much repetition in what decks people are saying they're running. Anytime I see a post up on the retro boards or I talk to people locally or just have chats, I mean, everyone's brainstorming has gone nuts. Like, we've got people that, I don't hear people that are all doing the same decks all the time, Even when Set 4 hit, everyone was like, oh, okay, I'll do Orange Android 20, because that hit in Worlds, and it's a really good, stall, slow deck. But in this one, man, I mean, people are like, I'll Blue Roshi, or I'm going to do, Android 16 this, or I'm going to do Yamcha. And I mean, like, we saw that Cell and Yamcha have really bumped up in popularity, and they are top tier decks. I'm not saying they're not, but the other decks are just as good. Roshi, Android 16, and I still don't think we've seen the potential of those decks. I still think MPs like Roshi and Android 16 are going to see some shifts as they get developed into decks and as people start thinking about the combos. But I just love the variety about Set 5. I mean, we have so much variety in decks. New decks and then old decks being given new life again. I'm still of the opinion too. I've talked to a lot of people who kind of debate about Set 1 through 3 decks, and they make the assertion that the older meta decks are not as viable or that they're dead, which I would disagree with. Like, I had somebody who told me the other day they're like, oh yeah, Namekian Piccolo and Black Krillin, man, they're dead. They're not meta anymore. And I'm going, I'm sorry. Did you see all the new broken cards that Black got in set 5? Did you see all the broken cards that Namekian got in set 5? I mean, Namekian Cell is legit, but let's be real about this. Namekian Piccolo isn't going anywhere anytime soon. The anger gain it gets still, the rejuvenation effects. I faced a friend of mine in a tournament this weekend with a new Namekian Piccolo, and it just went to town on me. I mean, and I'm playing Red Ruthless Turtles, and he just, I mean, even with all the anger mitigation I got from physical hits, he just got up there in anger just over and over and over again, and weighted clothing and right throw and all the ball manipulation, and he had at points like 2 to 3 balls on the field, but then he'd shuffle them in so I could never crit and get him back. He'd level up, so his stages would go back up. And being new Piccolo, his stages were already, I mean, his AT was completely above mine, so I was only getting the +4 modifiers. It was a struggle. So I don't think that the old decks, like we talked about, Black Krillin, Namekian Piccolo, even Ginyu, like my blue Ginyu tag team, I still think is super viable in this meta. I faced a game against a friend of mine, Kevin Bach, who was playing the new Cell with Namekian Restored Mastery, and it still went off. I mean, when the allies hit the board, it's just a massacre. And all the new attacks in set 5 that help with damage. There's a new energy guard that when you guard with it, you can lower your MP down to 0 stages, so you can do extra damage and get your allies activated right off the bat instead of having to go down. I still think that those old meta decks are still viable in this new meta. I don't think that Cell and Yamcha are necessarily the meta killers or the meta changers. I think they're an addition to the meta we've already seen. I don't know with MPs like I've talked about Roshi and 16. I don't know where they're going to sit. I like Roshi for his potential for the whole setup game and mitigating and preventing damage. But then again, you've got cards like Dig Your Grave, and you've got Static Shot in red, and you've got Turtles, that the whole preventable damage thing doesn't really work. And so if you have one of those matchups, it's a really hard counter. Let's see here. Leland, Cell looks to have issues with allies when Cell is running Old Saiyan. Yeah, I've seen, Old Saiyan doesn't really have that many answers for the whole ally game. There's the one physical attack that will allow you to pop allies depending on, when it hits and how it attacks. I think it works better in the Namekian just because of Gut Punch. I mean, Gut Punch is insane. And the way that Cell levels up and down from 3 to 4, I went up against Kevin in the very same game I talked about with the new Ginyu. And he got Gut Punch, and he was at level 4. And so 4 of my allies just went off the field, and I couldn't get back up to stop him, because if I got up to 2, which I wanted to do, he was just going to lower me back down and back to 1, and I couldn't get my allies out of the discard pile. So it was a really, really tough game, and I agree. I think the ally game for Cell and Saiyan is a bit more difficult. Let's see here. Got Judas. My first build of Empower Cell could easily be off by 15 plus cards, and it's still laying down swift creamings. It's a force. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people run with Cell, and the stages and the level hopping. It's stupid the way that they can go off on a deck, and still, even though you're having a disadvantage or you might have a bad combat, they can come back, and it's some serious booty. Serious booty. John S. Black Tien. Okay, so this is a deck. I haven't personally experienced it. I looked over the list, and this is actually another video I want to do later. I made a comment to somebody on the retro boards that I wasn't personally impressed with the deck, and I'm telling you, they got a little butt hurt. They were like, "What do you mean it's not good?" And I went, I get the idea behind it. I just don't think Tien is that great of a stack. Especially when it gets to level 2, I'm not really impressed with his higher levels. I get the idea behind it. I haven't seen it personally go off, and I don't see it as a contender. But that is the great thing. That's just my opinion, and I would be more than happy to play people against the deck and see how it runs. I mean, I could very well be wrong. I've been known to be wrong before in the past. I had a friend of mine who had an orange Tien before set 5 hit, and I mean, it was really cool. When it went off, it went off. It's kind of like red Tien. You know, when it goes off, it goes off. But I haven't seen the consistency in any Tien deck yet that warrants me saying that it's top tier. Team Badman, hello. Thank you for joining us, you sexy people. Any experience with 16 yet? I don't see half as much play from him as Yamcha. Yeah, it's really weird. I haven't seen a lot of 16 decks. In fact, I haven't seen it locally. I haven't heard a lot of talk about it, which is weird because the thing was everybody was talking about, I run 3 hero spheres and 3 villainous spheres and 3 stare downs and 3 confrontations. I mean, that sounds fun, but I look at it and I go, well, yeah, but what's your end game? Like, I mean, I get spearing things all the time. I get looking at their hand, but at a certain point, you do so much disruption. But then, what are you going to do? I would like to build I've been looking at a blue 16, a blue protective 16, that kind of looks around the whole idea of putting into play blue key build up, stretch kick, set up some drills, and then the thing you would do is kind of set up your hand to Matthew Combs, from Next Level Z. Okay, you came in here, Matthew. So I've got to hold on. I gotta do a little oh yeah, brother. Matthew Combs has come to join us in Manabeast. Like a cup of coffee, yeah. Okay, that was it. That was for you, Matthew. It was for you, only for you, because I love you, boo. I love you a lot. Anyway, so I want to build a Android 16 blue protective deck, and then run positioning drill and set up my next turn essentially. So either let them go into combat, or let's say I go into combat on them with a lot of guards. Run it kind of a little bit defensive, but also have a lot of attack options. Stack my hand, like the next 1 or 2 cards, and then let them draw into a dead hand. Either looking at it with mental drills so I can see their hand, or if they play like a drill, a setup, or a couple of options in a planning step, and I know, they got 1 or 2 cards left in hand and they're not going to have a very viable combat, then just boom, hit the setup, demand they go into combat at the end of their planning step, and then, go into combat and just booty on them over and over again. I like that idea. It's a setup deck. It's weak to like Sinister Choke. It is kind of a slow roll deck. It's like a slow burst, but I think it has potential. It's just it's not as the potential isn't as easy to see as decks like in Cell or Yamcha, which it's just is really easy to see. I said I love you the most. He says, I don't know. I love you. Just stop it. You're making me blush. Gosh. But speaking of Yamcha, I've seen a lot of Yamcha locally. I've seen blue. I've seen orange. I've seen black. I really like the black perceptive Yamcha. I like the idea of how black works the grind game. Stage gain, of course, works in with the whole using energy attacks. And then, you've got different modes, though. You can throw down the black power up. You can do the black searching techniques. Essentially, you stagnate their game, get rid of their most valuable cards, their most valuable assets, and then as the game goes along and you're slow grinding things out, you're gaining anger, you're gaining stages, and you're moving up to the next levels, and then you're able to get to 2, and then hopefully 3, with different things like Black Command and different anger gaining cards, and then by that time you can hopefully throw, like I've seen people do, a lot of Black Capture to just start banishing cards off the top of their deck, and it's kind of that like Black Slime deck where they slowly crawl up and then have hand advantage, but then can also in combat whenever they want. So it's like the ultimate control mixed with a lot of energy beats as well, which I think could be good. I've seen it worked Of course, Orange Yamcha, is a lot of the hotness, working with the drills and in line with all the energy attacks and your modifiers, which I think, is a perfect match for him in that sense. And then blue, because blue's just defensive. And again, I think it has good potential to be defensive, but blue's got a lot of great stuff that's come out in set 5 that I think is potentially good. I gotta make sure I got making sure I got things set up here. One thing I want to talk about, though, is Red Ruthless, and specifically the Red Ruthless Turtles build I have. Let me tell you, that deck is even more nuts with set 5. And of course, by the way, as I'm talking, you guys give your opinions and let me know what you think about the set 5 meta. If you want to have a discussion, and if you think I'm wrong, or you think I'm right, or you just love me, if you love me more than Matthew Combs, then you comment, because right now Matthew Combs loves me the most, and I'm just saying, it's a little bit, a little biased, and so I want to give everybody the chance. Okay, what do you think are the dark horse styles for the set 5 MPs? The ones people are passing over and missing some really interesting stuff. I'm going to say 16. I really do think people are missing out on 16. Roshi, I think we're going to understand as the meta develops. Working with your setups and preventing damage works. But I think 16, I will call it now. Android 16 is going to be the Android 20, like Orange Android 20 as it was at Worlds. I don't think a lot of people see it coming because the potential is huge. The fact that you don't have an alignment restriction, you're able to run more cards than you should. And I like the fact that you could even mix up a mix of stare downs and confrontations, because depending on the matchup, sometimes you would want to throw a confrontation. Like if I'm going against a Red Ruthless, for instance, Turtles, I don't want to throw that, key attack into the discard pile because they're just going to get it back. His damage mitigation is great, and as it gets to the higher levels, like that's what I love about Rocket Punch, because I think it has a great potential to set the board, control everything with like a blue or a black style, and then when the combat suits you, when you have set up for the perfect turn, go in on him and just completely just smash face, because his AT stages are amazing. I mean, he hits like a truck. He's got great cards, both his setup and his physical attack. And so I think that's where I think you're going to see a little bit more of a dark horse, people developing the deck and learning it. So that's what I would say. As far as the new set 5 MPs, Yamcha and Cell, we get it, and I think Roshi, we understand perfectly fine as well. So yeah, Android 16. Black Willow I'm working on, and it could be big. Dude, I'm going to agree with you, John. I'm going to agree. I got a local guy here in town, Don Crosswhite, who has been working on Black Willow since since it came out. And he has a very successful Black Willow deck pre-set 4. Pre-set 4, pre-set 5. He was running Black Devious. I prefer it with Black Perceptive. To me, Black Perceptive works with Willow perfectly. Getting your stages back, you're at a low AT, so if you get hit by a physical attack, you can hurt. And then raising your anger to slowly get up. I don't think Willow... The only thing Willow benefits from in Devious Mastery is the whole discard effect, which, is missing with their hands. However, I think the setup and drill control of Black Perceptive is great. And, of course, working with cards that are discarded from the top of your deck to get other effects, I think is really good for Black Willow. And I've seen it go up against, Orange Android 20. I've seen it go up against decks that should be beating it down. And it does extremely well for what it is. My main deck is Red Ruthless Trunks. It's holding its own locally, but needing my cover drill, or at least aggressive sword, is a weakness I'm having to work around. Yeah, I've wanted to build a Red Ruthless Trunks. I like the sword drill. I love the sword physical attack in red. Endurance 3, raising your anger +1, and then AT +4, which is great. I like the whole idea behind the deck of fishing out those sword cards. Using the aggressive sword to be able to pop out any attack you want, and then keep going and keep, it kind of works with the whole tutoring from your discard pile, which red is all about. And with Trunks' big AT stages, it's another benefit. I've actually wanted to build a Red Ruthless Ginyu as well. Personally, I'm big on Red Ruthless right now. Like Red Ruthless is my main deck right now as far as styles. I mean, I'm running with Turtles. Oh yeah, and as I was talking about with Red Ruthless, my favorite additions for the Red Ruthless, Red Backbash. Now this card I want to talk about a little bit because everybody's been giving it crap. I've heard a lot of people say it's a bad card. Actually, they said it's a bad card, and I'm here to say you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. Everybody sees the Red Ruthless Mastery, especially with Turtles, as the physical beats, and you want to get out Shattering Leap, and then AT plus 4, and then I'm at C, 3 above, that's 7, and then plus 2 with the Mastery. I've got 9, another 2 is 11 stages. Everybody wants to do those big 11 stage damage, and I get that. I completely get that. But let me state my case for Red Backbash. Number one, right now we have technically 3 cards that are unmitigatably 2 attacks, okay, which is Red Double Strike. There's no prerequisite for throwing that attack twice. It stays on the field to be used a second time. Red Shattering Leap is a little bit iffy. You got to throw it at the end of combat when they don't have a physical guard, and it costs the stage, so if you're stage locked, you can't use it, so it's a little more temperamental. Red Backbash, though, throwing 2 physical attacks in a Red Ruthless Fizzbeat decks is not hard at all. It's stupid easy. And I think people look at the 5 stages as a really weak attack. But here's a couple things. We do still have Android 18 in the meta. Physical mitigation hurts. And especially when they get to level 2, or especially when they get to level 3, it's even harder. So to me, my favorite combo is throwing the Red Double Strike and then Red Backbash, so that we are getting 5 flat stages. You can't modify it. Now, I can't modify it. Sure, there's no modification on my end, but neither can you. This means that Garlic can't modify it either. So any modifiers he has, the Red Destiny, anything that would stop you from hitting them for stages is completely taken out of the equation. Ball 6, again, -2 stages, doesn't matter. Still flat 5 stages. If you look at it as far as a stage draining tool, it's great too. They're at 10 above, 5 and 5. So you hit them once, 5. You hit them second time, 5. They're all the way down to 0. I don't care if they're a Cell, all the way up at E, or if they're the weakest personality, they're a Wheelo, okay? So being able to take a Cell that's at level 4, level 3, or even 2, and taking them from 10 above to 0, so now your AT stages factor in, is a huge deal. Again, it's another physical attack that can be stayed and used twice. So now we have a total of 9 cards in the Red Ruthless Mastery physical that can be stayed in twice for attacks. And I'm telling you, I'm just here to testify that Red Backbash has won me more games than I care to know. It's a great combo extender, like that last hit. Really good against Namekian or Ball decks because, think about it like this. I can throw at my max. Let's say I'm at level 1, and I've got my modifiers on with Red Double Strike, right? Red Double Strike, your AT is C. They're at A or 0, so it's 3, plus 2 from the Mastery, 5, plus 2 from Turtles. That's 7. So that's 7 life cards, okay? Now, I get that, and that's great. But any other physical attack that's going to get thrown at, even if it's an 11 or it's a 12 stage, is great. But when you hit with that, you're talking about a 1 critical damage effect. And against a Ball deck, I like doing more life cards of damage. Yes, 11 is nice, and it's technically more than the stacked 5 and 5, which is 10. But that's 2 critical damage effects if they both hit. If they're at 0 stages and they both hit, you're doing 2 critical damage effects. So that's allies, that's Dragon Balls, and that's double the anger. So what's really cool is, what's my favorite thing is, they're at 4 anger. Oh, you're at 4 anger, cool. So Red Backbash, 0. 5 life cards, crit, lower your anger by 1. Mastery, lower your anger by 1. You're 2. Second time, 5, crit, lower your anger by 1. Mastery, lower your anger by 1. 1 card has the potential to lower 4 anger. And against anger decks, the Red Garlics, the Namekian Piccolos, hello. I mean, can we talk about control? Awesome control. So Red Backbash, for me, is one of the MVPs in Red Ruthless. Team Badman. With the growth of all these physical decks like Sword Trunks and Ruthless Turtles, do you think 18 will pick up in play, or will she still be a B-level choice like she appeared to be in Set 4? I'm gonna say she's still gonna be B-ish level. I do think physical decks are big. I think they have made a splash in the meta. People are realizing their power, but I as much as she's able to mitigate physical damage, the ability she possesses and the card pool, I don't think is strong enough for her to actually, turn around and make some sort of comeback or put damage back out as much. I think she's great on defense against physical decks. I think she can defend well. I just don't know what her win condition would be then. Or is it, a kind of survival mill thing, and maybe you try to, throw out attacks yourself. I just don't see she has the power to actually then get up and win. But I do think it's going to see play. I do think it is a really good deck. I'm actually more interested in 19 because of I think to me I'd rather run a 19 because of the stage gain from lifeguard damage. That to me is really big. Energy absorption, it works great against those kind of decks. It's a good control. But I don't know if you'll be seeing 18 in topping though. That's my problem. I just don't know where they would go after they block all the attacks. To me, it doesn't have the synergy and the power to come back. Matthew Combs, I think 18 will see play because of her ability to tutor a multitude of cards on demand. Android Defensive Blast is a great card in the current environment. Yeah, I mean, it is a great card. It is really good. So, I mean, I see the defensive options. I just don't, I go against Android decks all the time at 18. I could see Anger. I could see a black, perceptive Android 18 working with physical guards and like you said, Android Defensive Blast, and then running up into level 3 and 4 to be able to mitigate and possibly win by Anger. Matthew Combs, I do think that sells the ultimate physical beatdown trump because once he hits level 4, yeah, he now has access to 15 stages between his 4 and 3, plus any other stage game that could take place. Yeah, I went up against my friend Kevin's. He runs a Namekian Restored cell, and yeah, once he gets to 3, it is so hard to do anything because going up and down is insane. A lot of times he'll start at level 3, with 10 stages, and he'll let me beat him down, one stage above. And then, he'll do level 3, he'll go up to 4, then he'll go from 4 back down to level 3, he'll be at 5 stages. It's just I can't stage lock him like I want to because of his anger gain, which now I'm almost thinking of running wall breakers because of his named event, which gets him up a level with anger. I mean, I can't stop the whole 3-4 crap, but it's really hard because you can beat down and have a really awesome combat. But once he gets those stages up, of course, he's at an AT table far above you and you can't do anything. So it kind of makes it difficult. Don't forget that hand advantage with Cell. Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing too. Once it gets to level 4, tutoring out the cards you want at the start of combat, either a defensive one, or I mean, it is, and of course working with Restored Mastery is stupid insane because you're stacking cards, gaining advantage. A lot of the decks are now running Namekian Leaping Kick because, I mean, they literally just run balls as advantage and then to banish them and get up a level. Cella's got so many leveling mechanics, it's insane. It's just, you can't, it's hard to keep them on level 1 or 2. I want to sneeze. I think I have a second one. Do I have a second one? No, I don't. His leveling is insane. There's just, it's so hard to stop, between when he runs Namekian, between his own event cards, between 3 and 4. He's not worried. He is like the ultimate Lord Slug. And I was having a conversation with Tim Cable about this, he's known for Namekian, and we talked about what he wanted Slug to be. And Slug was supposed to be that deck. Slug was supposed to be kind of like the hopping back and forth deck. And Cell, I'm sorry, does it better than any deck out there. It does it better than an orange deck with Devouring Drill. It does it better than the red or red Garlics or red Tiens. It just levels up and down insanely consistently. And it's hard to beat it. Pardon me. So yes, of course, if you have opinions, just post in the comments here. We'll chat about it. Kind of getting back to other red cards that I've been liking. Red Capture. Hello, Red Capture. Let's talk about that card a little bit because in the physical matchup, which I do think we're in a more physical heavy meta, it is stupid amazing. It is the black upward dodge for red, but even worse. And being able to block a physical and then throw one back at them, for +10, that's not even talking about the modifiers. So your Shattering Leap, right, which would normally do like maybe a 10 or 11, is 20 stages from one attack, which can be just devastating against a deck that's trying to physically beat you down as well. I run 3 of them in my deck because I think it's amazing. I've gone back and forth on Red Interference. I like the guard, although I'm mixed about it because if your physical deck is doing what it's supposed to be doing, they shouldn't have any stages to throw an energy attack at you. Of course, I do like the idea of being able to defend an energy attack and then getting back out a red heel kick from your banish zone, play red heel kick to get another card out. Like the potential from combos is cool. I don't see it as viable in a Turtles beatdown deck, like a red Ruthless Cell or a Ginyu. I could totally see that working. Getting cards out of your banish zone to reuse them. And there's a lot of great ones. Heel kick. You're working with red left bolt. There's so many good banish after use cards that you're like, oh, I just put them back in my discard pile and then mastery. And since it's a guard, it's your initiative to play an attack, so you can use your mastery and do silly things. Other red cards that I've seen, I've looked at Tandem Blast. People have talked about shutting off those non-style attacks, which I think is really cool. That's why I'm interested in building some other red Ruthless builds, because I don't think it works with Turtles. Because again, in my opinion, Turtle should be as physical based as possible. I don't think it works as it should. But yeah, all in all, I've enjoyed seeing the new stuff in Set 5. I'm just looking for the decks that are going to be the dark horses that no one sees coming. Of course, what do you guys think are the dark horse decks? What are the decks that you've played or you've seen played? And when we talked about Black Tien, I've talked a little bit about Android 16 kind of being a dark horse, and even old decks. Like, what are old decks that you think are coming back? Old decks that you think are dead? What's going to change in Set 5? Because I don't think we're going to know. Personally, I don't think we're going to know how things are going to change. I don't think we'll see it until a few months down the road. Once OP opens up, once we get more events, more tournaments. We're going to have that dark horse orange Android 20, which no one saw coming. Wallbreaker get more play. I think Wallbreaker will get more play. It's just Anger Gain is still a thing. It's still really popular in the Namekian decks, even in Cell. I've got a friend of mine who building a red enraged Yamcha, which gets up and goes down in levels with the anger. I do still think anger control is important. We do have a lot of auto level cards that have nothing to do with anger, but there's a lot of cards, and actually something I'm interested in building are leveling decks that want to get to 3 to 4 that use Wallbreaker as a tool to not only stop your anger gain, but then to use cards like Clash of Will. I'd like to build a Namekian Piccolo deck that I've kind of been working on, new mastery, of course. And I'd like to build one that focuses on stopping them from gaining anger, but then also using Clash of Will, so that with the physical kick that gets you up by banishing 2 balls, with just the natural anger gain that Namekian Piccolo gains, and then that card, I can Wallbreaker you. You're not going to gain any anger, but then I'm going to get up to the next level. I think that's going to be a popular mechanic to use, not only as a control, but then for ways for you to level up without them leveling up as well. Because I like Clash of Will a lot. I like the idea behind the card because I think it's interesting for decks now that aren't worried about MPPV, which is becoming more common now. I mean, we've got Turtle stuck on level 1. Doesn't care about getting the level 4. I mean, would like to get to 3, ideally. And then you've got Orange Android 20. Doesn't care about MPPV. Cell doesn't care about MPPV. I mean, a lot of top tier decks don't care about it. So Well, thank you all for joining. I think this has been a productive and fun conversation, and it was a little trial, a little demo to see how it works. I mean, hopefully y'all enjoyed it. Would y'all like to see more of this stuff? Would y'all like to see more kind of like lunchtime conversations, lunchtime get together? I don't know what I'd call these. It's like a DBZ picnic, like a DBZ potluck. Bring all your dishes and dinner to discuss things. I don't know what we would call this, but something like that in my opinion. But anyway, let us know your thoughts. And if you're not live and you watch this after it was live, well, I'm sorry. I wish you could have joined us. But post in your comments. Tell us what your favorite set 5 decks are, what you think of the meta and how it's changing. And yeah. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Thank you. We had quite a decent little crowd here. And, we had next level Z section of this. We had Team Badman. It was just like, all like, it's just, okay, I'm sorry. I'll stop that. That's, it's a little disturbing. So anyway, all, thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.